Hi, I'm Tina.
And I'm Rich.
If there's one thing we've learned in over 20 years of marriage,
It's that some days you'll feel like killing your wife.
and some days you'll feel like killing your husband.
Welcome to Love, Marry, Kill.
Hey, Rich.
Hey, Tina.
How are you?
I'm doing fabulous. How are you?
You're looking quite handsome today.
Well, I did just get a haircut I knew we were recording today, so I wanted to make
wanna
sure I
look
looked
handsome
my
for me?
best. Yeah.
So I got some new makeup in the mail, and I was like playing with the new makeup that I got. So I probably look a little like a clown.
No, you look
'Cause I
great
got
too.
some new blush. I'm like, oh, this is really pink.
Oh, no, you look great.
Well, thank you. So for everyone, but especially women, it's like go time. It's the season that we're all thinking about, Thanksgiving, what we're
Yes.
cooking for Thanksgiving, what we're buying for Christmas, how we're going to decorate.
I have noticed a change in you over the last 2 to 3 weeks, and I can tell, yeah, it is definitely go time for you.
Well, today, I'm starting to feel a little bit of stress, but I'm trying to prepare ahead. So we are having some guests for Thanksgiving, which we're super excited about. Our son's coming home. Our daughter's coming home. It's interesting because, we're more or less empty nesters now. There's less people to do the work.
True.
There's less people to be like, hey, can you do this real quick? Or no, it's really all on me and you to a lesser extent. So I'm trying to focus on, I'm just going to clean one room, because there's a lot of rooms in our house that are used, like the guest bedroom. Like I'm going to wash all the bedding and, get that ready. And, I'll get that room completely clean, but that's where Cosmo sleeps too. So anyway.
And he doesn't help at all either.
Right.
So
I actually made our Thanksgiving gravy already.
yeah, it was really good.
I think it was pretty good.
Yep.
And I haven't really talked about this, but a lot of times when we make meat, I sous vide the meat.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when you cook it in a warm water bath. And for me, I'm not a great meat cook, but it always turns out well, right?
Yeah, it does.
And so I already
keeps its moisture.
Yeah, so I cooked a turkey breast in the sous vide. I think I'm going to make another one.
That was like your practice?
No. Well, we ate some of it, but I froze the rest of it. So don't worry. It's not in the refrigerator. It's in the freezer. I think it'll be fine if I just warm it up in the sous vide again. So just trying to think ahead
wasn't
this
worried
year.
at all. Yeah, I think you need like a project manager for.
But it's also almost your birthday.
Yeah.
And well, we've talked about this a lot. People probably know Rich's cake of choice is cherry chip cake for some reason.
Jeez, you're gonna make me angry.
I don't even
depressed.
know what's happening, but you cannot find a cherry chip mix. If you live in the United States and you see one, let me know. Send it to us. I would be happy to pay you exorbitantly for it.
So just a couple of days ago, I was thinking about this, and I went to the Betty Crocker website.
Oh yeah,
and it's there.
I've tried that.
No, I know. But people comment, and every comment is, "Why can't I find this anywhere?" And the Betty Crocker people reply. They reply like, "Oh, we're sorry you can't find it. You should talk to your store person. We're still making it," and they're acting like
they're
nothing's
making it
wrong.
in Canada, and we're 45 minutes to the Canadian border. So maybe we'll make a run for the border. But our very sweet listener Teresa, who is a great baker, may have sent me a recipe for a cherry chip cake. But still, I have to dehydrate the cherries, and that's kind of
it's always a
risk.
risk.
You're worth it.
Is it going to be the
it.
same as the box mix? I mean,
well, remember last year I had one box. I just kind of did it that way, and that was pretty good. It was good.
Yeah,
it was really good. So anyway, if you see a cherry chip cake mix, let me know. Remember what happened this summer, though? That was a major faux pas on our part.
We found one in a grocery store.
Where were we? Were we in Wisconsin?
No, we were in Indiana.
On our way to Chicago.
Yes, it was on our road trip, and they had it. I was like, we should pick some up, and we decided not to.
Our car was literally so packed that we didn't have room for 2 boxes of cake mix.
Yeah,
so
that was a mistake.
Of cake, that wasn't a very good transition. I have a snack for you today.
Oh, okay.
But it's not cake.
It's not cake. Okay.
Another listener named Taylor, who is a Michigan native, reached out to me recently and suggested that we try JoJo's Bakery in Traverse City. I believe her parents live there, and I've never heard of JoJo's Bakery before.
Me neither.
So I hopped on the internet and I found their website and I ordered a dozen cookies. Not that we need a dozen cookies, but I couldn't decide which ones to get.
Oh, that's exciting.
I know. I already ate the oatmeal raisin. I bet you're okay with that.
I am okay with that.
Taylor said the best cookie is the lemon glazed molasses, and I'm guessing the one that you're going to want to try.
Yeah, that sounds
I will let you
interesting.
choose one out of the box. I thought it was a really good price, though. It was like, I don't know, $50 to get a dozen cookies, which is super cheap if you ever order baked goods online. I
Yeah.
sent some to our son, too. So I will hand you this box, and you can choose which one you want,
Okay.
but we should definitely try the lemon molasses one.
All right. Sounds good.
What did you think of JoJo's cookie?
Oh man, that was so good. Such a great flavor, like
Yeah,
really lemony.
a lot of
and
flavor.
good combination, the lemon and the molasses. So
But a great box, like a great gift box. I think all the cookies arrived in really good shape.
yeah,
So I think this would be a great gift for
I
Christmas.
really want to try them all.
And they came pretty quickly too.
Did they?
They have 2 stores, one in Petoskey and one in Traverse City, and it's jojoscookiecompany.com. We'll put a link in our show notes. So,
Awesome. Thank you for that.
awesome. Would you say 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10, easy.
Which one do you want to try next?
They all look so good, but the one, I think it's called the Autumn Stacker. It's like a sandwich cookie. That looks amazing.
That's mine. So pick again.
You got to pick the raisin oatmeal one, so I think
got to pick that one. You tore that right out of your
next
hand.
pick is mine.
Yeah, I think few people understand my love for oatmeal raisin cookies, but I really do love them. We love to support Michigan businesses. Today's case does not occur in Michigan. We are going to Washington State. I'm going to tell you the story of Crystal and David Brame, and it's a heartbreaking case. Thank you to Nichelle for recommending this case. She's from the area and remembers how deeply the community was affected by this tragedy. Nichelle, we're so sorry for your recent loss. We're thinking of you and sending you love. All quotes, unless otherwise noted, come from the book Tacoma Confidential by Paul LaRosa. We'll talk more about that when we get to the end of part 2, but excellent book. On the night of February 15th, 2003, Crystal and David Brame were having yet another explosive argument, the kind that had become all too familiar during their 11-year marriage. Their 2 children, Haley, 8, and David Jr., 5, sat unfazed in the living room watching TV while their parents fought. The family of 4 lived in a comfortable home on Eagle Creek Lane in Gig Harbor, about 10 miles from Tacoma, Washington, where David, 44, served as the city's chief of police. To the outside world, David Brame was handsome, charismatic, and confident, good at his job, and admired by his community. But behind that polished exterior, he was demanding, controlling, narcissistic, and deeply cruel. Crystal, just 5 feet tall and 105 pounds, had learned to live carefully under his rule. Each morning, he forced her to step on a scale to be weighed under his watchful eye.
Oh, man.
Isn't that horrible?
That's terrible.
She'd carefully maintained the same weight since meeting David, even after 2 pregnancies, but her husband hurled insults at her, making Crystal feel as if she wasn't good enough for him. That night, though, she was taking a stand, refusing to attend a work dinner with David. When she again refused to get dressed, David Brame, at over 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, towered over his petite wife, intimidating her as she cowered in the corner, wrapping herself into a defensive fetal position, ready for the blows that she was sure were to come. She was determined to stand her ground for once. The dinner was at Anthony's, a popular seafood restaurant in Tacoma, honoring 2 of Brame's newly appointed deputies. But Crystal hadn't felt well all day, and she told her husband she didn't want to go. What should have been a simple disagreement ignited into yet another fiery battle, a pattern that was becoming increasingly dangerous. David retreated slightly and called Crystal to their closet, asking for her help to find his favorite blue turtleneck. Relieved that she seemed to have won the battle to stay home, she went to the closet and hovered near the open door, hesitant to enter. David had locked her inside recently for hours. When she looked up, David was pointing his service revolver at her. It wasn't the first time he'd pointed a gun at her. "It's not loaded, you idiot," he said, trying to hand his weapon to her. "Take it," he demanded. "You need to know how to protect yourself." Crystal refused. She'd seen enough Law and Order episodes to know better than to put her fingerprints on the weapon. "Do you think I'm stupid?" she asked. "I know you're stupid," he retorted. David grabbed Crystal by the waist and pulled her body close to his, jamming the Glock under her chin. "Accidents happen," he said menacingly. David released his hold on Crystal and she collapsed to the floor. He stormed out of the house, slamming the door loudly in his wake. Crystal remained crumpled on the closet floor, sobbing, and reminded herself that the divorce papers would be delivered in just a few days. She and the children were almost free from David's tyranny. The nightmare would soon be over. Or would it?
Well, he sounds like a horrible, horrible human being.
Not a good guy. Tacoma, Washington State's third largest city, has a population of about 230,000. Sitting on the shores of Puget Sound, 27 miles south of Seattle, Tacoma has had its share of bad luck. For over 100 years, Seattle has beaten Tacoma at every turn. Even Mount Rainier was supposed to be called Mount Tacoma until Seattle intervened. And then there's Galloping Gertie, the suspension bridge that earned its nickname because it swayed and undulated violently, even in light winds. The bridge famously collapsed into the Puget Sound on November 7, 1940, a particularly windy day. Thankfully, no one was killed in the bridge's collapse. The disaster became a turning point in engineering history, transforming the way long-span suspension bridges were designed and ultimately making them far safer.
That was caught on camera, wasn't it? It was filmed, I think, at the time. And I remember this distinctly from school, probably like a physics class. But the bridge was just going crazy and people were like running off of it and cars were tilting left and right and really a wild
You're
video.
Correct. There is video of it. And again, no one died, but one dog did perish in the collapse. But I have a real fear of going over bridges, and I hate driving over them. But yeah, I mean, bridges do fail.
Sometimes they do, yeah.
Known as the City of Destiny after being chosen as the western terminus of the Northern Pacific Railroad in the late 1800s, Tacoma has always had grit and character. Once a booming industrial and shipping town, by the early 2000s it was in the midst of a transformation, revitalizing its waterfront, opening the Museum of Glass, and nurturing a growing arts scene. It's a city with working-class roots and civic pride, where community ties run deep. Tacoma is also known for some darker associations with a crime rate considerably higher than the national average. Your chance of being a victim of violent crime is 1 in 81, and property crime 1 in 14. Tacoma is the birthplace of serial killer Ted Bundy and the site of several high-profile criminal cases, including Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. The Tacoma Police Department is actively investigating 147 cold case homicides and 20 unsolved missing persons cases dating back as far as 1936. However, in recent years, there has been an effort by law enforcement and crime rates have been slashed by 17%. To those who live there, it's a place of rugged beauty and endurance, framed by Mount Rainier and bound by the waters of the Puget Sound. As early as anyone could remember, David Allen Brame had wanted to be a police officer like his father. Born in 1958 to Beverly and Eugene, David grew up in East Tacoma, the grittier side of town. The youngest of 4 children, he had 2 brothers, Gene and Dan, and a sister, Jane. All 3 boys followed in their father's footsteps and became law enforcement officers. David was a good kid, the apple of his parents' eyes, quiet and serious, spending his spare time memorizing Bible verses. He was a good student and an exceptional athlete, leading his high school's basketball team to a state championship. His siblings claim that he was his parents' favorite child. David attended community college before moving on to the University of Puget Sound, graduating with a degree in criminal justice. He joined the Tacoma Police Department in 1981. He married for the first time to a woman who's chosen to remain anonymous. She's never spoken publicly about their marriage, but David claims she was unfaithful. He allegedly caught her in bed with another police officer. They divorced after 8 years of marriage. David was tall and handsome, but awkward with women. The divorce and alleged infidelity had rocked his confidence. He pined to be married again and start a family, but he was having a hard time meeting women.
Crystal DeEtte Judson was born to Patty and Lane in Tacoma, Washington on April 24, 1968. She has a younger sister by 2 years, Julie. Lane Judson was a proud member of the U.S. Navy before starting his career at Boeing as an engineering supervisor. His first tour of duty was from 1952 to 1957, but he later re-enlisted in the Naval Reserve, serving additional tours in 1965, 1982, and 1995.
That's pretty impressive, right?
That is very cool. Patty was a homemaker. Together, they ran a meticulously tight ship. You see what you did there.
I did write that on purpose.
Their house was always spotless, and their daughters brought that lesson into their homes later in life. They were a close-knit family. Crystal, like David, was the favored child in her family. She was smart, pretty, loquacious, and athletic. She was both a ballerina and an ice skater, once competing against and beating infamous Olympic figure skater Tanya Harding. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Later in high school, Crystal was a cheerleader and a daffodil princess. She also taught herself sign language and spoke fluent French.
You're not going to ask me what a daffodil princess is?
I can only imagine.
I think it was a local
Like a
daffodil
pageant.
festival, and
Okay.
there was a court of, young women that were chosen to be daffodil princesses.
Well, that's pretty cool. She seems very impressive.
Yeah.
Crystal attended University of Washington and majored in criminal justice. When it was time for Julie to go to college, she and Crystal became roommates. Crystal, a recent college graduate, met 29-year-old divorcee David Brame while working part-time for the Tacoma Police Department, posing as a sex worker in a prostitution sting. After the arrest was made, Crystal asked David for a ride home. She made it clear that she was interested, attracted to his alpha male status and confidence. He asked her out and the two began dating. David was focused on his career while Crystal enjoyed going out and spending time with friends, but he often pressured her to stay home instead. The control began subtly. When Crystal started looking for jobs, David insisted she work only with women, making it clear he didn't want other men taking an interest or flirting with her.
What do you think about that?
That's a really bad sign early on. Julie, Crystal's sister, didn't like David from the start, but she kept her opinions to herself. I thought she had to live her own life, she said. It just seemed that he was making all the decisions for her instead of her making her own decisions. Julie thought that Crystal's outgoing nature was too vibrant for David's quiet reserve. She lit up a room while he preferred to fade into the background.
Which probably made him a good police officer,
Sure.
right? He was good at observing and, wasn't worried about talking a lot.
Right.
Didn't make him a great partner.
Yeah. After 2 years of dating, David proposed and Crystal happily accepted. She told her mother, Patty, "He makes me feel safe." Years later, this statement would haunt Patty. She never liked David and once told him, "You'd be nothing without your gun and uniform." He liked to refer to his mother-in-law as the Barnacle.
I think that's kind of a good name for a mother-in-law, really.
Yeah, kind of. They married in front of 175 friends and family on August 3rd, 1991. Crystal moved into David's house after the wedding, the same house where he had lived with his first wife. Crystal worked for the circuit court until she became a stay-at-home mom when their first child, Haley, was born on Christmas Eve, 1994. David Jr. followed in November 1997. After Haley was born, they moved into a modest home in Gig Harbor, a picturesque city on the Puget Sound, connected to Tacoma by the Tacoma Narrows Bridge.
Which replaced Galloping Gertie.
Okay. After the move, David's financial control of Crystal began. He kept a firm grasp on their money, often not even giving Crystal money for gas for her car. Lane, Crystal's father, recalled David saying, "It says David Brame on that check. It doesn't say Crystal. If you don't like it, do something about it." He gave Crystal $100 every 2 weeks for groceries and household spending. She didn't have access to their bank accounts or credit cards. He even checked the mileage on her car and demanded receipts matching timestamps with where she said she was. He went as far as limiting her visits with her family. For extra money, Crystal began to sell her and the children's clothing to a resale shop, but when David found out, he demanded half of the proceeds.
So David was making enough money to support the family. He was just very frugal. He was obsessed with saving money. I don't know if he wanted to retire early, but he wanted to save at least $5,000 a month. I'm not sure if it was at this time or a little bit later, but still, that's $5,000 a month. That's a lot of money to save.
It is a lot.
Definitely, they could have been living a lot better.
Yeah.
And it was more about control,
Well, that's
I
what I was
think,
going to
than the
say.
money.
Even if he was frugal, it seems like it was, much
It was
more about
control,
control. One area of David's life that was going well was his career. He had received several promotions and pay raises over the years, which brings to question why he was so frugal with his wife. In 1999, David was promoted to Assistant Chief of Police.
So I get the impression that he was promoted so quickly, not because he was the best police officer, but he was good at department politics.
Well, as is often the case, I think. He worked long hours, leaving Crystal to handle most of the parenting on her own. She was grateful that her parents, her sister Julie, and brother-in-law Dave lived nearby. They spent a lot of time together, but whenever David joined them, he kept to himself, speaking little and often withdrawing from the group. Julie remembered one visit, not long after the Brames had bought their new house. She found David lying alone on the floor of an unfurnished room, isolated from the rest of the family's laughter and conversation. And maybe saddest of all was that Crystal, formerly extroverted and social with lots of friends, was a shell of her former self. She no longer saw friends and didn't have a social outlet due to David's strict control. Her family made it clear to her that they did not expect her to stay in an unhappy marriage, but Crystal wanted to make it work. She was isolated, Julie said. Mom and I tried to get her to go shopping or meet for lunch, but something always came up with David. He wouldn't let her go anywhere, and when she did come along, she had no money. Another unsettling detail in the Brames' marriage was that David insisted on accompanying Crystal to her annual gynecological exams and even sat in the room while they were performed.
That's a little creepy, right?
It's super creepy. We'll be back after a break.
There are some people who don't believe David was abusive or controlling. They claim that Crystal struggled with mental health issues, possibly obsessive-compulsive disorder, which intensified after the birth of their daughter, Haley, leading to what they describe as erratic or unpredictable behavior, but those voices came mostly from David's family. His sister Jane defended her brother, saying, "During their marriage, David felt like he never knew what he was going to come home to. He used to say, 'I feel like I'm raising 3 kids.'" She recalled one evening when she was on the phone with him and Crystal arrived home. David abruptly ended the call, telling his sister that Crystal didn't like him talking to the family. "She'll feel the phone to see if it's warm," he said. According to Jane, David claimed that Crystal often had emotional outbursts and could be verbally and even physically explosive towards him and the children. Friends of David described the Brame household as chaotic, saying the children seemed to lack structure and discipline. They echoed David's claims that Crystal struggled to maintain control, portraying her as overwhelmed and emotionally unstable. Several people said when they were on the phone with Crystal that she would tend to yell at her kids. But every parent knows your children never act worse than when you're on the phone.
For sure.
And I don't really believe that Crystal would touch the phone to see if it was
that
warm.
Seems unlikely.
And then there was the relationship between Beverly and Crystal. They did not get along at all, likely stemming from the fact that no one was good enough for David, the baby of the family. Once while taking a family photo, when Beverly asked Crystal to step out of the frame, fists nearly flew.
Wow.
And David's sister Jane questioned Crystal's account of David's tight-fisted ways with their finances. "It would take the kids 45 minutes to open their birthday presents. It was so ridiculous, it was sickening," Jane said. "Why would a little 5-year-old girl need 35 Barbie dolls? David wanted his kids to have everything nice, but not to that extent. Everything was overboard. The normalcy was not there with Crystal." Jane produced credit card bills from 2003, which showed about $1,100 charged around Christmas time to bolster her claim. But there was no proof of who had used the credit cards, and even $1,100 at Christmas time when you're buying gifts for 2 kids and 2 families, I don't think is an excessive amount to spend.
No, it doesn't seem like it, but it seems like there are 2 very different pictures being painted here, depending on whether you're talking to his family or hers.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to reconcile the 2. Like, one of them must be telling the truth and one of them must not be.
Absolutely. Crystal's friends and family told a different story. They said she was a devoted mother who adored her children and tried desperately to hold her family together, despite David's increasing volatility. They recalled how she would arrive at their homes in tears, describing his constant criticism and unpredictable temper. To them, Crystal wasn't unstable. She was terrified. A neighbor recalled an incident when David Jr. broke a lamp, causing a hole in the wall. Crystal was sobbing and asked for him to help repair the wall before David got home. Crystal really didn't have relationships with her neighbors. Like, she was so desperate to get this wall repaired that she went over to him and asked him for help, and they weren't friends.
Okay.
So on another occasion, a neighbor saw Crystal pounding on the front door of their home, screaming to be let in. Twice in September 1996, David wrote detailed accounts of arguments that he and Crystal had. He gave them to a fellow officer for safekeeping. Here is one account. With the 2-year-old Haley present, Crystal kept a barrage of sarcastic and profane criticism. Throughout the day and into the evening, she refused to drop the matter. Finally, at 11 p.m., I went to bed. As soon as I lay down, Crystal came into the room, turned on the light, and announced that she had things to do in the bedroom. I retreated to the living room couch. She followed and turned on the light, announcing that she wanted to watch some television. This went on for another hour or two, which I repeatedly said that I had to go to bed as I needed to get up early to go to work the next morning. Finally, in desperation, I warned Crystal that if she didn't stop haranguing me, I was going to leave the house. She continued her verbal assaults, then began punching and hitting me. Because she was so angry and volatile, I gathered all 3 of the service revolvers I kept in the house, put them in my gym bag, and headed out the door. On my way out, Crystal shouted, "If you leave, it'll be the biggest mistake of your life." I drove in my police cruiser to my parents' house to spend the night.
Wow, like he's putting this down in almost like a formal affidavit.
Right. Like in the terms are very policeman-like, right? Like
Yeah.
he's writing it,
Right. It's like he's writing this about another case.
Exactly. But it's weird that he would take the time to write this down, right? And remember, David is a big man, and Crystal, we know, is 5 feet tall and 100 pounds.
Yeah, the fact that he would take the time to write this down tells me that he was planning something. Like he was planning for the potential of using that
himself,
at some
right?
point. Yeah.
Patty remembered the night vividly. Crystal had called her, sobbing after David threatened to put a bullet into both her and Haley. Terrified, Patty begged her daughter to call the police and file a report. Crystal did call, but when asked if she wanted to make an official report, she hesitated. She didn't want David to face disciplinary action or lose his job. She declined to file a formal report, a decision that would later haunt everyone who loved her. The next day, when he returned home, David chastised Crystal for calling the police, warning her not to bite the hand that feeds you.
I feel so bad for someone married to a police officer in that situation because you're just really in a terrible spot.
Not long after, another argument broke out, this time over a $5,000 bedroom set that Crystal wanted for their new home, which David flatly refused to buy, calling it too expensive. In David's written account, he claims that Crystal yelled at him for 90 minutes, throwing things at him while he held 2-year-old Haley. He called a friend and fellow officer, Norman Conway, who met him at the Gig Harbor Police Department to decide what to do. David looked haggard, the t-shirt he wore was torn, and allegedly he had other injuries that weren't recorded. Brame was insistent that he didn't want to press charges. He wanted to work on his marriage. "She went nuts on me, Norm. I don't know what to do anymore. I want to stay and work on our marriage, but it's getting harder." "Document everything," Norm suggested. David wrote his account and gave it to his friend for safekeeping. He also filed an informational report with the Gig Harbor Police Department that read in part, "Brame is concerned with possible escalating problems with his wife, Crystal. Brame states his wife has become increasingly hostile verbally towards him and has made threats to destroy his career with false accusations. Brame plans to move from the residence later this night and may request civil standby." In June 1998, after another physical altercation with Crystal, David asked his mother to photograph dark purple bruises on his upper arms and scratches on his neck. Crystal later said that the bruises were self-inflicted, that David had taken weights and dropped them on his arms to form the bruises. In 2001, Julie bought her sister a lifetime membership to Oasis Tanning Salon, a generous gift that Crystal loved and used often. Over the next year and a half, she went nearly 200 times. It's about every 2.8 days, I believe. She struck up an unexpected friendship with the salon's owner, Debbie Phillips. Since marrying David, Crystal had drifted away from most of her friends and hadn't built new connections after becoming a mother. Debbie became a safe space, someone Crystal could finally open up to. Debbie was also a domestic abuse survivor and became a trusted friend. During one of their talks, Crystal confided something that shocked Debbie. Her sex life with David, she said, had turned violent. Bondage, choking. "It feels like rape," Crystal whispered. David eventually sought counseling for what he called a sexual addiction, but according to Crystal, his desire for control and his obsession with mixing pleasure and pain never stopped. Crystal and David once went on a vacation to Desert Shadows Inn Resort in Palm Springs, a clothing-optional retreat that catered to people new to the lifestyle. They enjoyed it enough to return 3 more times. During one visit, they befriended another couple from New Mexico, and they agreed to meet up again months later. David approached the other man and asked if he might be interested in swapping partners. The man agreed, and they arranged another trip. But when the time came, Crystal refused to go through with it. David was furious. So the clothing optional resort.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how Crystal really felt about it. I'm not sure if she went along with it or she was into it.
Yeah. Well, and even if she was into that, it sounds like the partner swapping thing, she was definitely not comfortable with.
She was not into that at all.
Finally, in early 2002, after 20 years on the force, David, 43, had the career opportunity he'd been waiting for. The police chief was retiring. It was an arduous interview process. Candidates were interviewed by city council members, but ultimately the decision was made by the city manager. Among the 32 applicants, 4 made it to the final round, among them David Brame. Being vice president of the local police union and earning their endorsement helped his chances. In January, the city manager, Ray Corpus, offered David the job as the city's 46th police chief, with the stipulation that he would have to move within the city limits of Tacoma within the next 18 months. His salary was $132,412.80, plus $8,000 deferred compensation.
About $235,000 today.
And 80 cents. David was likely chosen for the position because of his deep roots in Tacoma and his family's legacy in law enforcement. The local hometown hero was the most logical choice. In the days before the city manager made his decision, someone anonymously contacted him to tell him that Brame's marriage was a mess and there were allegations of domestic abuse. When asked for proof, they couldn't produce any, so Corpus went ahead with Brame. Upon starting the job, Brame asked everyone to simply call him Dave. He wasn't comfortable being called chief. He told the Tacoma News-Tribune, "What is right with the Tacoma Police Department is the men and women who give it all, day in and day out. Our future is limited only by our ability to dream. I'm home and this is where I'll stay, and together, I know we will do great things." When Brame was sworn in, Crystal awkwardly pinned his new badge on him in a ceremony attended by 200 people, including his children. 4-year-old David Jr. stole the show when he grabbed the microphone and said, "Thank you for coming." Among Brame's tasks were managing 420 employees and an annual $51 million budget. David's idol was Michael Corleone, and that's the way he liked to run his department, Godfather style. He stacked the Tacoma Police Department with allies and got rid of people he deemed problematic. He demanded blind loyalty from his subordinates, no questions asked. You would think someone being the police chief would know that Michael Corleone might not be the best role model. Tacoma police detective and friend of David's, Barry McColman, got him a framed, signed picture of Al Pacino as a gift when he became chief. He hung it in his office and even kept DVDs of the 3 films in his desk. McColman said, "Brame was kind of obsessed with the Godfather movie. He talked about the movie a lot. He could quote from it and used it in our bargaining, our union stuff. I could never remember that kind of shit. I couldn't even remember who the different guys were or the characters' names, but DA, he was obsessed."
His friends called him DA. But that might be something that you might want to do in your career.
Yeah.
You could use Michael Corleone in your meetings.
I probably should.
Yeah.
So like Michael Corleone, David had a list of enemies, including police captain Charles Minema. Minema was the leader of Brame's opposition. Lines were drawn in the Tacoma PD. You were either on Team Brame or Team Minema, and the acrimony spilled over into office politics. David played dirty, too, demoting officers just months before their 30-year retirement date, costing them valuable pension money. When one officer asked why, Brame simply said, "Because I can." Others who disagreed with his management style chose to resign, valuing their pride and integrity over loyalty to him. All of this, of course, was done without the public's knowledge. Most people believed Chief Brame was doing an excellent job. His public image remained polished and professional. On February 4th, 2003, the city even passed a $34.3 million bond measure to fund 4 new police substations and a new headquarters that David would oversee, a clear sign that Tacoma's residents had confidence in his leadership. Brame had an uncanny way of exuding sincerity in public and putting forth a positive image, but not everyone was fooled. Here's a memo he put out in his first weeks as chief. "Understand that happiness is not based on possessions, power, or prestige, but on relationships with people you love and respect. Successful people are loyal, honest, and self-starters. Take responsibility for every area of your life. Be bold and courageous. When you look back on your life, you'll regret the things you didn't do more than the ones you did. If only he had lived by those words.
What a fraudulent turkey this guy is, right?
Yeah, I'll say.
He's spouting all these words and not living by them, and ugh.
Yeah, I don't like it. Jeanette Blackwell had been the administrative assistant to the chief of police since 1996, serving 2 chiefs before David Brame. Within the department, everyone knew Jeanette was the one who truly kept things running. He led people to believe that he was very, very humble, she said. I had believed him too, until I started working closely with him and realized how arrogant he was. Jeanette recalled that Brame showed little respect for others, even his fellow officers. It was very embarrassing, very horrible, she said. He was often rude and dismissive to the other secretaries in the department as well, but to the public, he displayed an aw shucks local boy charm. Don't call me chief, he'd say with a shy grin. I grew up here. Call me DA.
Ugh.
Jeanette was professional, but was kind and had a warm personality that put people at ease, even David. Although she held a great deal of disdain for him, she was able to hide it. He began confiding to her about his marriage, calling her into his office each morning, and unloading Crystal's latest transgressions toward him. She was volatile and abusive toward their children and him, he claimed. When David crossed the line and shared personal details of his sex life with Jeanette, she corrected him and told him he'd gone too far. David often vented about Crystal to other co-workers, too. He painted her as unstable, irrational, and sometimes unhinged. He made it clear that he believed someday she might snap.
One time, Jeanette was on the way to the emergency room, and it was 11 o'clock at night with her sick child in the car, and David called her and said, hey, what are you doing? And she's like, well, I'm driving my child to the emergency room. And he said, oh, well, let me tell you what's going on with me and Crystal.
Wow.
He never even asking about her child.
Jeez. We'll be back after a break.
Based on absolutely no proof, David decided that Crystal was having an affair and was determined to catch her in the act. On April 24th, 2002, Crystal's 34th birthday, she was stunned when she received a flower delivery. The card simply read, "From your secret admirer." Crystal didn't have a secret admirer, Lane Judson, Crystal's father, said. Those flowers were from Brame. He was playing games just like he always did. Like he was trying to catch her in the act.
Right.
David also bought her a Thomas Kincaid lithograph. Their house was filled with them. He loved the painter of light, but Crystal couldn't stand the mass-produced art. Remember the Thomas Kincaid era? Yeah,
I totally remember.
They were kind of cool.
They were kind of cool, but yeah, you don't get a gift to somebody that is something you like, but they're not that into.
Oh, you're not supposed to do that?
No.
David, try as he might, had never been much of a ladies' man. While somewhat attractive, he was awkward and a little shy around women. But after he became chief, something shifted. The position gave him a new sense of confidence, or arrogance, and he began feeling emboldened to make advances toward women in ways he once wouldn't have dared. There are a few pseudonyms in this story, people that preferred to remain anonymous, and I believe Linda Watson is one of them.
Okay.
30-year-old Linda Watson, tall, slim, and brunette, was the most attractive female cop on the force. She'd been with the Tacoma Police Department since 1993. David had taken interest in her years earlier, when he asked her if she'd like help studying for the detective's exam. The speed at which Brame was promoted was legendary around the station, so she took him up on his offer. They met for lunch, and he gave her some pointers, and another officer was present to set Linda at ease. Not long after, while on duty, filing paperwork out in her cruiser, David, Crystal, and the children happened by, and David introduced her to his family. When she scheduled a meeting to discuss adjusting her work hours to better accommodate her 6-year-old daughter, David seemed attentive at first, but rather than addressing her request to stay on the day shift, he leaned in too close and turned the conversation toward personal questions unrelated to her schedule. When the meeting ended without a resolution, David asked her to meet him for lunch again. She agreed, hoping to drive home how important it was for her, as a single mother, to be there for her daughter at night. But the lunch again felt uncomfortable, too familiar, and not addressing Linda's concerns. David asked her pointed questions that revealed that he must have studied her personnel file or reached out to her friends for more information. He knew too much. Linda was very uncomfortable. Finally, he got to the point. Do you want to do a little true crime theater?
Sure.
Do you want to be David?
Not really.
Can you pull off Swarmy?
Not really, but I'll do my best.
All right.
Last week, when Crystal and I ran into you at the mall, later she told me how much she liked you, how beautiful you are.
Well, that's nice. I liked her too.
Maybe some night we could all go to the theater together and have dinner together.
Oh, I think it would be better for you and your wife to enjoy a date night without me tagging along.
Well, that's where you're wrong. Crystal has a wild side. She likes to try new things, especially in the bedroom. I think you might be the same.
Chief, I don't think this is an appropriate conversation. You're making me uncomfortable.
You know, Crystal and I have fantasized about bringing someone else into our bed. We've talked about having a threesome, and we both thought you might be interested. You can get to know her a little better if you'd like. It's been a fantasy we've always had, but we've never acted on it.
You're making me uncomfortable.
Making myself uncomfortable.
For me. I really need to get going. I need to pick up my daughter.
All right, but don't forget to think about my offer, and good luck on that detective's exam. I really hope we can get you that promotion soon. Oh boy, he had to bring in the thing about the promotion at the end too.
So Linda fled from the restaurant, deeply disturbed by the conversation. She went home and took a scalding hot shower. But one thing she knew for sure was that she didn't want Chief Brame as an enemy. He'd just put her in an impossible situation, but he'd made the implications clear. If she entered into a sexual relationship with him and his wife, she'd be made a detective and receive a more favorable schedule. And then the phone calls started. Brame, typically on weekends, would call Linda to invite her over to his house or to meet up at a hotel with him and Crystal. She dodged the calls as much as possible. Sometimes he'd even put Crystal on the phone. Linda stopped answering her phone, but surprisingly, she was promoted to detective. I was very surprised that she was promoted to detective.
I am surprised to hear that too.
Crystal had no desire to be part of a threesome, but David put pressure on her to call Linda in hopes of them forging a friendship. But Linda was on high alert by this time and rebuffed any advances and made it clear that she was not interested. Meanwhile, the Brames' marriage continued to unravel. The arguments became more frequent, more intense, more violent. When David lost his temper, choking Crystal became his go-to form of control. His grip was so strong that more than once, Crystal lost consciousness. The fear that he would take it too far or what he might do next never left Crystal's mind. His chilling words rang in her ears. It's every man's fantasy to strangle his wife. We've talked about the correlation between attempted strangulation and murder before. Prior non-fatal strangulation greatly increases the risk of future lethal violence. Women who experienced it had over 6 times the odds of an attempted homicide and over 7 times the odds of a completed homicide. This highlights the importance of screening for non-fatal strangulation when assessing abused women in an emergency setting. If a man touches your neck even once, it's time to reevaluate your relationship.
Those are really chilling statistics and really good advice. I mean, it's not something I ever would have really thought of before, that is such a correlation between that type of thing. But yeah.
Seriously, if someone touches your neck, you know that person could touch your neck in a deadly manner at some point in the future.
Yeah.
And I know it's easier for me to sit here and say, leave your relationship if that happens, but that is one of the biggest red flags that we have, sadly.
Yeah, for sure.
One night, particularly disgusted, Crystal chose to sleep on the couch. She awoke to David looming over her. What are you doing?
Do you think you'd have a heart attack if you woke up and I was standing over you with a mask on and a butcher knife in my hand?
Are you crazy?
Not as crazy as you.
I'm going to report you, I swear.
Go ahead. Who would believe you? I'm the chief of police, or maybe you forgot that. No one will believe you, Crystal. So you go ahead and do whatever you want.
You are playing creepy a little too well, sir. In February 2003, Crystal began having severe stomach pains. David, who never lifted a finger around the house, was compassionate about her discomfort and began bringing her a Coke every time she didn't feel well. Suspicious about his sudden concern for her health, she went to the doctor to be tested for arsenic poisoning, but it came back negative. But again, Crystal, she knows that she's in danger.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and there's also a lot of other things other than arsenic that could cause a problem too.
Crystal had been on edge for years, on the brink of filing for divorce, but the final straw may have come when David informed her that she was going to be a retired cop friend's birthday present.
Oh my God. You're going to give him a blowjob and I get to watch.
I will not. I've been planning to leave you for months. I'm leaving your perverted ass for good, and I know about your secret bank accounts. I'm taking half of everything, what I deserve.
I'll kill you before you get any of my deferred comp. I can't believe you made me do that.
I can't believe you did it so well. Crystal decided to file for divorce in Seattle, in King County, hoping to keep the divorce private and quiet to protect David's job. Despite everything, she and the children still relied on his income, and she really didn't want to humiliate him in public. On February 24th, 2003, Crystal's divorce lawyer told her that David would be served with papers that day. She was nervous but relieved to get it over with. How would he react? Crystal knew it might get ugly, but she'd made a plan. She tried her best that morning to be pleasant and act normal. After David left for work, Patty and Lane rushed over to help box up what they could bring to their house. They lived in a nearby gated community, which made Crystal feel safer. By 2 p.m., they had vacated the house, which was fortunate because David arrived home soon after. It's like his cop's intuition was pinging and he knew something was going on. As he walked through the house trying to find Crystal, he sensed that some of her things were missing. He called Jeanette at the station in a panic. She's gone. Jeanette later recalled how emotional he'd been on the phone. David called his in-laws' house and begged to talk to Crystal. She agreed to talk to him. They both cried as he pleaded with her to return. He apologized for not treating her better. Crystal told him that they could talk later and hung up.
Don't believe him, Crystal.
At 4 p.m., a process server arrived at the Brame home and handed David the divorce papers. By that point, he wasn't surprised. In the filing, Crystal requested several things: half of David's monthly income, about $5,300, and that he'd pay her $7,500 attorney's fee and sole possession of their marital home. She also asked that David's mother, Beverly Brame, have no contact with the children, citing past incidents in which she had struck David Jr. The document also made it clear that she was fearful for her life. Later, after the children were settled with their grandparents, Crystal agreed to come back to the house. David told her that the police chaplain, Bill Bowlby, would be there to help counsel them. Bowlby was there when Crystal arrived. He reminded her that as a good Christian woman that she had taken vows in front of God, and she shouldn't forget that. He tried to talk her into pausing the divorce for 6 weeks while she and David attended marriage counseling. I can't. No. This was the hardest decision I ever have made in my life, but I think it's the best thing for me and the children. I just want all of us to be happy. David, it's better this way for all of us. It is. Crystal told the chaplain some shocking secrets about David. The marriage was irreparable, she explained. She was done. She returned to her parents' house feeling confident that she'd made the best decision possible for herself and for her children. Tragically, the nightmare was far from over.
I was afraid it was far from over because otherwise we probably wouldn't have an episode to talk about. But with this stupid police chaplain coming in and giving advice when he knows nothing about the marriage, and I don't know, it bugs me that he just kind of came in blindly, told her, oh, you need to stay in and work on it, you know?
Right. And, that is a problem, that the police chaplain didn't know that David was abusing her,
Right.
And I think that's a good point, that any counselor can only help you as much as the amount of honesty you are with them.
Yeah.
That didn't really make sense, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's where we're going to stop for part 1. But how proud are you of Crystal for sticking with her decision to leave there at the end?
Yeah, I mean, really proud. That's hard to do. And she, went through a lot, it sounds like. And in those situations when someone is being controlled by a husband like that, I think it's very difficult to, stand up for yourself and get out of it.
I think at that point she was just done and she had her resolve and she was ready to move on with her life. We had talked earlier about the 2 different accounts. We have David's account where Crystal was abusive and Crystal's account that what David was abusive.
Yeah.
Which do you tend to believe more?
Well, I tend to believe Crystal's account, partly because, I think with the stories you told about after he became chief of police, the way he treated people in the police department, it all points to kind of the same way that he seemed to be in the marriage as well, like just kind of controlling, using people, getting rid of people he didn't like. It just seems like that
he was
sort of his
controlling the
mindset.
situation.
Yeah.
And that leads to my next question, where I was saying, do you think that David was manipulative and always covering his ass by talking about Crystal's abuse and documenting their arguments? Remember, he would talk to his assistant and, all the people around the office, which is really unprofessional, if nothing else.
Totally unprofessional. And like filing these affidavits, if you want to call them that, like these written reports.
Well, files that, Yeah,
that he would share with friends. I mean, it's obvious that he was doing that for a reason, like that he wanted to cover himself for a future, whatever was going to happen in the future, whether it was divorce or, accusations against him of being abusive or whatever it was. Right. He was trying to cover himself.
Well, I think nothing was more important to David than his career and the trajectory of his career. He was so proud that he made it to chief. And there was probably some rivalry within his family. Like, he had made it to chief. His father hadn't, his brothers hadn't, and he would do anything to keep that job, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you think it was possible for Crystal to ever feel safe again?
No, definitely not.
Sadly, no.
I think in that situation, like, there's just too many red flags there. And, yeah.
Do you wonder if anyone in the police force really know what was going on?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure some people suspected.
Because remember, there were this sect of people that were his enemy.
Right.
And they really kind of saw through him, I think.
I'm sure they saw who he was as a person and probably could, extrapolate from that to what his relationship was with his wife.
This is something that I think about all the time in these cases, and even in my personal life. How do you support a woman who is going through an abusive relationship? Like, what could Crystal's family have done or her friends have done? It's so hard because I think if a woman isn't ready to leave yet, there's really not much you can do.
Yeah.
I love that her parents had told her, honey, it's okay to leave him.
Yeah.
We're not telling you to stay in your marriage.
I think that's I think it's the only thing you can do, right? You can't tell someone to leave because they're, if they're not ready, like you said, it's not going to work. All you can do is be there and listen and help give them that kind of advice that, it's okay to make a decision that might go against what you believe or, what you want your life to look like. But yeah, it's a very difficult situation, I think.
Something that I have a hard time with as, a friend, being a wife and a mom, your job so often is to solve things, and I want to solve everyone's problems.
Yeah.
And sometimes a friend just really needs you to listen. And that's something I've tried to work on a little more is, even with you, like, you'll tell me something that's going on at work and I'm like, well, you need to do this. And then now I realize that, you'll get there, you'll figure it out on your own. And until you're ready to make a change, all I can do is listen. But if you suspect a friend is in a dangerous situation, remind them it's okay to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm always here for you if you need a safe place to go.
Yeah, and help them identify what maybe resources might be available as well. Like, you're there to help them, but there's also, numbers you could call, right?
It's a slippery slope.
It is.
Because I have had friends that not are necessarily in an abusive relationship, but are in an unhappy marriage.
Yeah.
And if you say something, they can get a little mad at you. If
Oh,
you're
for sure.
Yeah, I think Rich is a jerk too. And
yeah, it's a very delicate situation.
Yeah, it truly is. I have one more question for you. Do you know any coworkers who are nudists or swingers? And if so, would it change your opinion of them?
Oh, that is a great question.
You don't have to say their names.
Well, yeah, Joe at work. And no.
Joe Smith?
I do not. I can honestly say I do not know of any coworkers who are nudists or swingers. I'm trying to think back in my career, and I can't think of anybody that I've known.
It's probably something that you don't tell people.
I mean, if you're a swinger, you probably want people to know in some sense, right? Because you're looking for, other couples.
I think there are clubs and places for that, and I think that that's what most people do is they find a safe space. And
I do know someone who went on their honeymoon to a resort that was, I think it was clothing optional, and he told me a little bit about it. They weren't like nudists, but they just went to this resort, and he was like it was a little eye-opening.
When we were on our honeymoon, wasn't there a nude beach that someone told us,
I
oh,
think
you
so,
might
yeah.
not want to go there?
Yeah,
And
it was in Jamaica. Yeah.
would you judge a friend or
No,
coworker?
not really. I mean, I'm always like a live and let live kind of person.
Yeah,
As long as
same.
you're not hurting someone else. I mean,
It'd be weird if like you were someone was in a cubicle. You just walked around the corner and Joe Smith is sitting there with his pants off.
I might judge a little
Right.
bit.
It would be frowned upon in the workplace.
I
But what you
would
do
not
on
like
your
that.
own time is your own
Sure,
business.
absolutely.
Well, please be sure to come back for part 2. Part 2 might break us.
Oh, no. Well, if you would like to listen to part 2 right now, you can join us on patreon.com/lovemarrykill. We have one tier for $5 a month. You get early access and you get to listen to multi-part episodes all at once without waiting.
So it's still November, and November is such an important month, I think, to really...
Because it's my birthday.
Well, exactly. And let me just talk about gratitude. That was a great segue because I just wanted to talk about gratitude for a second. And I'm so grateful to you, my partner.
Stop.
No, I'm serious. But our listeners too. We have developed such a good group of people, such a good community. And I just wanted to say I sincerely am so grateful for our relationships. And it's just been such a wonderful, supportive journey for the most part. This weekend, there was another thread on Reddit that mentioned us, and that just was...
Like multiple people mentioned us, and it was so, it was
just
so
so
nice.
touching, and just know that we truly appreciate it. Someone said something was like, they're kind of funny. They don't even try to be funny, so...
Well, that
made me laugh.
That was kind of a funny comment.
But it's true, though, because I think some people try really hard to be funny, and if we make a joke, it's... Not really.
To me, it just comes natural to be funny.
I know.
I really don't have to try. I'm very blessed.
You are very funny. But
really.
Just know that we truly appreciate your support. It means so much to us.
We really do. And I think when we started this over 3 years ago, we never would have expected to like have these relationships with people. I know they're over email or messaging or whatever, but it's just so cool.
But even the people that I know aren't messaging us that are listening, and I hear that we put a lot of people to sleep.
Yeah.
Which makes me laugh. Which we should probably keep it down sometimes. I think sometimes...
why are we talking so?
I know. Should we just do a whisper episode?
Yeah,
That would be totally crazy, creepy.
Really
you
creepy.
kind of played the swarmy guy pretty... Am I saying that? Smarmy.
Yeah.
Like I was saying swarm. I'm sorry.
I try really hard when we're acting to try to get into character. I do pride myself on being, a pretty decent thespian.
I think we both think that we're better actors than maybe we actually are. I don't know. I shouldn't speak for you, but
I did feel like I was nailing the part, and it made me feel a little bad that I was nailing the part because he's a horrible person. So
you're not a horrible person.
But it is, honestly, it's fun to play terrible people. I think like if I was an actor, I think those would be the roles I would like the most, because it's just fun to get to be somebody so different. And,
right. Yeah. I think a lot of actors seem to play the same role over and over.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, to be like a really bad guy.
Yeah. I think
call us NBC, ABC. Yeah, I don't know. What show would you want to...
Well, you wanted to be in a Hallmark movie.
I do.
You want to play podcasters in it, but I think it would be fun to play the bad guy too.
Oh, I've been meaning to give a shout out to our friend Marcy. I think her last name is Blesy, Blesy. She writes a lot of really cute books. So she just sent me a copy of her latest book. Is called Dying on the Housetop. Ho, 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 a Christmas novella.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and I haven't finished it yet, but I started. And she's really funny and sweet and kind.
Oh, nice.
So I really think you guys should check it out.
I am so impressed with anybody that can write a book.
Yeah, she's written a bunch in this series, but she's also written some young adult books. And if you have Kindle Unlimited, it is on Kindle Unlimited this month.
So cool.
Yeah, she's awesome. I love her. Over the weekend, we got our first snow.
We did.
It was supposed to snow like up to 6 inches, but I think we got an inch.
Yeah.
And it was the best kind of snow, because as soon as it hit the road or the driveway, it melted.
Right.
So
it looked pretty. It was really
very
nice,
pretty.
But yeah, it's mostly gone
super
now.
cold here now.
I know.
It's going to warm up. But I have these fleecy leggings on that I got from Amazon that are fleece lined inside that I recommend, but I did layers today because I'm freezing.
Yeah, I've been cold the last
Do you remember
week or
last
so.
weekend on Halloween when it was warm
Yeah.
and someone told you that you should put up the Christmas lights?
No, I don't remember
You don't remember
that.
that?
No, I don't think
No?
anyone
Huh.
told me
And
that.
did you get those Christmas lights up?
No, because I don't think anyone told me that. I didn't hear it. If someone did, maybe they did. I don't
Some
know.
wise person with red hair told you that you should put the Christmas lights up.
I don't know any wise
But I don't
people
know
with red
why
hair.
is that job relegated to you? Why do you always have to do it?
That's true.
Oh, well, because I spent like 2 days decorating the inside of the house. But
Yeah, what's another day spent on the outside? It would be, might as well just keep going.
I mean, somehow we do. I don't think this was intended when we first got married, but we do tend to do like chores that are more
Traditional male and female, like
Yeah.
something breaks, it's my job to fix it.
Yeah,
And
I don't know why that happened,
I
but
don't know why I did either, because I think we're both very, I don't think either of us are like confined to those kind of gender roles or anything like that, but it just,
well, you were not handy when we first got married. You have taught yourself
No.
a lot of stuff, like, and we've talked about our refrigerator situation. Everyone knows about our stupid ice maker, but our dryer also is problematic,
God.
and like
I've taken that thing apart more times.
right. And I don't think I would be. I mean, you've done it a lot of times where the lint gets stuck in places that it shouldn't
Yeah.
get stuck, and you have to totally take the front off. And
Well,
that's
I don't know what we did before YouTube, because it's, you can find a video on everything that kind
well,
of
you used
guides
to call
you.
a guy, and now I just say, "Hey,
Yeah.
honey."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do my best.
Well, that was an exciting conversation.
I don't know how did we get here?
Well, thank you all so much for listening, and please come back for part 2. Until next time,
Don't kill your wife.
and don't kill your husband.